Hi everyone, Pamela Leonard, Integrative Nutrition Health Coach. And today I'm going to talk about our second brain. So we all know where our first brain is up here. And there's been a lot of talk over the last few years, so this might be something that you're already familiar with, but I want to go in depth about our second brain, which is found in our gut. Our gut is not our stomach. Our gut is our intestine, particularly the small intestine. The small intestine is actually small in diameter compared to the large intestine, which is our colon, which is the second phase of the digestive process, which empties out into the toilet. So we're going to talk about our gut, otherwise known as the small intestine, which is actually very, very long. Okay, so where do you begin with the gut? Okay, why is it called the second brain? It's called the second brain because the vagus nerve directly links from our brain to our gut. Our gut has 70% of our immune system. So everything that our immune system fights to keep us healthy is processed in our gut and can be jeopardized, of course, by the foods that we eat, the environments that we live in, the amount of stress that's in our life, the relationships that we have, the careers that we have. All of these things can affect our gut. And I'm sure it's not news to you that when you're upset, where do you feel it? You feel it in your gut. When you have an intuition that's telling you to do something or to not do something, where do you feel it? In your gut. It is an amazing, amazing part of our body, and more studies are coming out that are proving the 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 importance of the health of our gut. So obviously we're all familiar with that's where our food goes. So important for us to be aware of what's going on inside of our body and to become aware and listen to the signs and the alarms, that the messages that our body is giving to us in ways of pain, in ways of insomnia, in ways of brain fog, aches and pains, skin allergies, puffiness, whether it's in our eyes or in our joints or in our ankles. These are all ways that our body starts to tell us that we're not in balance. So balance. So what do I mean by balance? Okay, so in addition to processing and digesting our food, actually the digestive part goes in the stomach, and then it gets broken down into micronutrients in our intestine that goes through the lining of the intestine, and it gives the nutrients into our blood. Okay, so let me break that down just a little bit. When we have an optimal intestine or gut lining, it is a closed system. It's actually only one cell thick. So it's a very thin closure, but it is a closed system that our food that is getting broken down to travels through. And as the food gets broken down into microscopic nutrients, they are small enough to permeate or pass through that single cell and then comes into our bloodstream, and it feeds all of our 72 trillion cells. Yes, they all need to be fed. So, what happens in an unhealthy gut? What happens in an unhealthy gut is that one cell lining becomes permeable. It actually gets open junctions in there. And pieces of food that is too big to be passing through the single cell actually passes through those openings and gets into our bloodstream. And over time can lead to chronic illnesses, things like autoimmune disease, things like cancer, things like Parkinsons and Alzheimer's. This is called a leaky gut. What causes a leaky gut? Many things cause a leaky gut. It can go all the way back to how we were born. If we had a vaginal birth, we have a stronger immune system than if we were born by C-section. There's the whole process of coming through the birth canal that actually allows the baby to ingest necessary bacteria that build a strong foundation in our gut, our immune system. So not having that and being born through C-section, you're deprived of some really essential bacteria that we need to have a healthy immune system. Second is all the immunizations that we have been given. They're full of heavy metals, they have aluminum, they have mercury in them. Those are other things that compromise our immune system and our gut. Obviously, antibiotics, any type of antibiotic kills not only the bad bacteria, but also the good bacteria. And when there's that imbalance, it leads into what's called dysbiosis, which means exactly that, the unbalanced bacteria. So dysbiosis is typically overriding of a candida. So let me explain candida. You've got your good guys, your good bacteria, your bad guys, your bad bacteria, and right in the middle is candida. And it's a natural, normal bacteria that we all have since birth, but it's like the neutral party. It's like Switzerland. So you got the bad guys over here, you got the good guys over here, and then we take antibiotics, or we drink a lot of alcohol, or we're on medications and painkillers, even things like Motrin and Tylenol. All of these things disrupt the microbiome. And then what happens is the candida goes rogue and it multiplies and it takes over, and then problems start to arise. So it can go from the leakiness through the gut nose into your blood. The blood, the white blood cells, which are our attackers, the blood cells that kill the viruses and kill the bacteria. So they go into overload because there's all of these foreign particles that are now floating around in our blood, and they're not supposed to be there. And the white blood cells have to work overtime, 24/7 for like forever, basically. So they start to go crazy and they lose their mind and they start attacking us. Okay, so they could be attacking a thyroid, which leads to autoimmune disease like Hoshimotos. It can start attacking your adrenals, which can lead to adrenal fatigue, exhaustion, and eventually burnout. It can attack your brain. That's where the brain fog, the migraines, the Alzheimer's, the Parkinsons, the dementia, all of these things are root cause is from a leaky gut. I just listened to last night this awesome group of scientists and researchers and doctors, and it was all about epigenetics, candida, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these things. And it's only like less than 10% genetic that you will get Alzheimer's or dementia. There's more and more and more evidence that it is from the environment, from basically what we eat and all these things we're putting into our body, as opposed to genetics. So there's like one or two genes that, yes, can be the cause of this to be a genetic thing, but they're finding, 90+% of these things can be eliminated or at least put at bay just by taking care of ourselves. And Alzheimer's and dementia, we're all setting ourselves up for it. And it happens like 10, 15, 20, even 30 years before the onset where it can be diagnosed. Dr. Amen does brain scans. He's got a clinic in Atlanta, and in California, I think it's LA. And you take a brain scan of the brain and it shows signs of dementia and Alzheimer's 20 years before it actually gets diagnosed. So we can all be, in our 20s and 30s thinking our brain is functioning just fine and doing, the Friday night happy hours and whatever, taking medications, whatever the case may be. But in time, it's just like feeding the fire, feeding the fire, feeding the fire. And sooner or later, those lesions in our brains not only become lesions, they become holes. And when you see a brain scan of someone with Alzheimer's, it's a pretty like wow moment. I mean, it's very amazing from a healthy brain to to a diseased brain. Now the beautiful thing is that we can correct it. We have 100% control about what we're putting into our mouth. We have a lot of control about the environment that we're in. We have a lot of control about the types of people, the relationships that we're involved in. You know, all of these things that weigh us down, that are toxic, that are, not building us up in the long run can really run down our immune system. It can run down our psyche, and it can affect us permanently. So I don't know about you, but I want to live not only a long life, but I want to live a very healthy life. So um, part of it is, having having that mindset and taking care of your body and your mind and your soul, having peace in your heart every single day. So going back to the gut health, I talked a little bit about antibiotics and Motrin, Tylenol, aspirin, all of these things. So if you think of the microbiome, the good, bad, and neutral bacteria that are in our gut, think about that as a rainforest. And it just needs to be nourished, it needs to be cared for. If any of you have had a garden, you know that weeds start to sprout if you don't pay attention to your garden, and things start to wilt if you don't water it, right? And it just starts to dry up. So other things that can affect indirectly our microbiome are hormones, okay, otherwise known as steroids, that are found in meats, okay, and our proteins. So again, it's really super important that we spend a little bit more money and invest in your health and invest in clean proteins. So you want the antibiotic and hormone-free chicken and beef, grass-fed beef that's antibiotic-free, hormone-free, and wild-caught salmon. Because the farmed fish can also be fed antibiotics and growth hormones so that they grow faster, so they can get out of the pond to get back on the market, and the farmer can get more babies in there to grow quick. So if you think about it, if anyone has, had the experience of working out in the gym, you might see some really, super buff guys in there, and I can pretty much guarantee it, because I come from a background of being a bodybuilder back in my college years, that they're doing steroids, otherwise known as juicing. So we used to call it juicing back when I was in college. But it's a drug. It's a drug. It gets put right into your muscle mass. They can put it in their glutes. They can put, which is your butt. They can put it in their thighs. They can put it in their arm. Usually, it's in the bigger muscles, which are your lower extremity muscles. But the same thing for a cow or for a chicken. My point is that the hormone is injected into the flesh, into the meat. So the chicken breast, you see these huge chicken breasts at the grocery store. And let me tell you something. My daughter, we had a chicken farm for like 8 years, and we went from 3 chickens to 103 chickens. So I've seen a lot of chicken breasts, and they're not big. They're not big. Even the meat chickens, we grew meat chickens for most of our chickens were egg-laying chickens, but for a while we grew meat chickens, and they're not really a lot of meat on a chicken breast. So when you go to the grocery store and you see these really big chicken breasts, you can rest assured that they've been enhanced. So take that any way you want it. But the point is, again, is that you're ingesting those hormones, so they are affecting our hormone level, even though it's coming from a secondary place, but it still affects our hormones, okay? So the hormones are all controlled and conducted through the pineal gland, which is the size of a pea, and it's in our brain, okay? It's in our brain, and it's called the master gland, and it connects all of the other hormonal organs that are all contribute to what's called the endocrine system. So the endocrine system starts with the pineal gland, which is in your brain. The thyroid is included, the adrenals, which are walnut-sized glands that sit right on top of our kidneys. And our kidneys are, if you take your hands behind your back and you can feel the back of your ribs, okay, so that's where your kidneys are protected underneath your ribs, and the adrenal glands sit right on top of your kidney. So kidney and adrenal gland. Um, so those are hormone producing, and then of course our reproductive organs. Okay, those are all hormone producing, men and women. We produce, even women have testosterone in their body, and obviously progesterone and estrogen. So anything that we consume that has hormones in it can disrupt those normally produced hormones. Also, as we age, as we all know, the hormones start to decrease, for women and for men as well in our reproductive systems. And then things like the adrenals have to take over to help produce more estrogen and progesterone because our ovaries are not doing that anymore. So it's a big science thing going on there. It's brilliant, but the point is I want you to be aware of how things can disrupt it. Okay, another thing that can disrupt our hormones is drinking water out of plastic bottles. All right, so let me just take that a step further because probably a lot of people have heard that, but they don't quite understand why. You know, it's like I put my water in the refrigerator, so I don't understand how it's leaching. The plastics that the what's inside the plastics have PBA, PB something. It is what gets released out of the plastic into the water when the plastic bottles are exposed to heat. So we don't know, especially us living in Florida, people in Arizona, California, Texas, all of these hot, hot states, even up north in Michigan in the summer, it gets really super hot. We do not know what has happened to this water, what this water has bottled water has been exposed to before we bring it home from the grocery store. How long has it been sitting on a truck? Has it been stored outside, you know, before it got put on the truck or after it got taken off the truck in some of these smaller grocery stores or convenience stores? They might not have cool storage. It might even be sitting out and back. We have no idea how many times this water has been exposed to heat before it has come to us. So that water can already have some of those tiny bits of chemicals in there that are hormone disruptors. So tiny little things like that. Believe me, I have drank water out of plastic bottles many, many, many times. So again, it's just a food for thought, things to be aware of so that you can make more conscious choices. And obviously, if you leave your water bottle in the car while you go run your errands, the same thing as processing. Same. So a couple other things are birth control pills. They definitely mess, you know, they do what they're supposed to do, but they definitely mess up our hormone and cause that dysbiosis in our gut. And chronic stress. So chronic stress taxes our adrenals, and the adrenals produce cortisol. So when we're under a lot of stress, our cortisol level goes super, super high, and it stays high. Now, it's supposed to, the adrenals are supposed to produce cortisol and adrenaline, right? The adrenals produce adrenaline, which is that high we get when we go on a roller coaster or we jump off of a high dive or we ride a motorcycle real fast or drive a car real fast. So that adrenaline rush is supposed to be a short-term thing. But the way the lifestyles that most of us are living right now, because things are so hectic, is that we stay in that constant high stress of cortisol. And that can lead to to adrenal exhaustion and ultimately burnout. And I think pretty much everyone has fatigue and close to exhaustion. If you're coming home every night, or if you start to feel exhausted around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, come home from work, you crash, but then you find yourself wide awake somewhere between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, during the middle of the night. Your body, again, is a huge alarm system that your adrenals need help. They are screaming for help. So there's remedies and there's foods and there's all sorts of things that we can that you would find out during my programs how to support that to help bring those hormones back into balance. Okay, so if you are obviously craving sugar, alcohol, carbs, if you love kombucha, I hate to break it to you guys. I know I hate always being the bearer of bad news. Please don't hate the messenger. I'm just the messenger. But I, again, learned it for myself is that kombucha is a ferment. And obviously alcohol is fermented, beer is fermented. sugar breaks down into a ferment, it feeds the candida. So again, when you have an overgrowth of candida, they are a live, living organism and they are hungry and they love sugar. So anything that breaks down into sugar, they're going to be craving, and they have a consciousness. Again, they're a living organism, so they live in our gut. There's a direct connection through the vagus nerve to our brain. So when we get that undeniable craving that we want something sweet, or we want a drink, or we want a kombucha, or we want a bowl full of pasta, or a loaf of warm bread that just came out of the oven, try to start separating yourself and reframe that thought process around who are you really feeding. I want you to think about that for a minute. Who and what are you really feeding? This is a big one, guys. This is a really big thing to wrap your head around and give it a new identity. Give cravings a new identity. A little bit, a little bit is fine. It's always nice to have a little bit of sugar, or a glass of wine, or but when your body is constantly craving, when your body's constantly hungry, when you can't get filled up, you eat a huge meal and a couple hours go by and you want to eat some more, you're hosting, your body's hosting a whole bunch of freeloaders. And that's who you're feeding. Yeah, I know that's big. I know it's big. So I want to offer to you, if you feel like these are some things that you might be dealing with, another indication is nail fungus, jock itch, athlete's foot, psoriasis, eczema. These are all telltale signs that there's a candida overgrowth, and it's a little bit of a battle, but when you can remove the freeloaders and you can reestablish homeostasis, when you can reestablish a balance in your microbiome, your life changes for the better. Your life changes for the better. Your moods get better. You ever hear remember the saying, what's eating you? When you all of a sudden get like so cranky, it sounds like, what's eating you? Well, when I went through my candida thing and I realized that I had the candida overgrowth, and it was like, wow, does that ever make sense? Because sometimes, we just get like really irritable for for really no reason. And again, it's that consciousness. It's the consciousness in our gut, and we can have candida so bad it actually affects our brain. Again, going back to the Alzheimer's and the dementia and the Parkinsons, all of these things. Brain fog. Brain fog is the first sign of candida overgrowth. So please, please, my heart is there for you guys, because I just want to help as many people as I can to feel as great as you can. And let me tell you, like the whole candida thing, when we can kick candida and bring homeostasis and balance back into our microbiome, the mood swings disappear, weight drops, because that overgrowth, they're living, again, they're living organisms, they carry a weight. So weight is going to change, the swollen, the puffy, the inflammation is going to go down, the achiness, the stiffness in our joints are going to go away. Our sleep is going to be exponentially more phenomenal and more deep, which is also going to help bring the cortisol levels back into balance. Because if we're waking up in the middle of the night when our cortisol is supposed to be down here on the rhythm and it's way up here, again, the adrenals think, rush, energy. That's why we're awake when we're not supposed to be awake. They're down here. So as we get into a deeper sleep, all of those things are going to start rebooting and restoring, and we're going to get back to where we're supposed to be. We're going to have more energy. We're going to have less pain. We're going to have more mobility. We're going to think clearer. And our skin issues are going to clear up. The psoriasis is going to go away. And the autoimmune, if we are already into that autoimmune progression or the forgetfulness, the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, when we start correcting all these things and feeding ourselves things that are going to get rid of the freeloaders and get rid of the candida and start normalizing everything, you're going to see your brain start to heal. You're going to see your immune system get stronger. You're going to see the symptoms from Hoshimotos and from adrenal fatigue and adrenal burnout to reverse themselves. And life really doesn't get much better than that. You cannot put a price tag on your health. So I hope that you take all of this information and allow yourself to absorb it and listen to this again if you need to. And when you are ready, please reach out to me for a consultation and we can talk about the different programs that I have to offer. I offer one-on-one, I offer group, and I also offer for those of you that are gung-ho and you've got a lot of basic knowledge and you're ready, you just need to like fine-tune some things. I have a half day and a full day VIP session. So we can just bust everything out in one day and get you on track and then take it from there. What works for one doesn't work for the other. So this is definitely individualized. We're all bio individuals. We all have our own unique bio individual stamp because we all come with a different history. Again, it all starts with how we're born, how we're brought up, how many antibiotics, what other type of medicines, what type of environment, what type of toxins, have we had the amalgam fillings, have they been removed, how are they removed, did we swallow some, like all of these heavy metal things are huge, all play a part in the toxicity. Do we have parasites, do we have overgrowth of candida? All of these things are addressed. And all of these things are fixable. All of these things can be remedied naturally through foods, through supplements, through herbs. All of these things can give you the best quality of life. And that's what I'm hoping for you. So from my heart to you, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope there was some gold nuggets here that you can take away from. I would love to hear your comments, anything that you want to share, please do so. And I hope to hear from you real soon. Take care, everybody.